getting your butt kicked. So it's always about getting up and going back again. And I think age really shows that, like, 1 year ago, if I was on the podium, I didn't get worse in 1 year. A lot of times it's mental aspect as to why people start declining if it's not their bodies.
Right. So for the young sailors that are just coming up through the high school program and whatnot, your advice to them would be?
That sailing is a long career. And I think when you're really young, it's important to enjoy it, because the serious years, you have a lot of time in a career to have that. And no matter what, you just have to understand you're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. And you can't let your down periods dictate your whole career. So if you have a bad race or a bad regatta, just say, okay, what can I learn from that, and get back to your goals.
Cool. Great.
Helen?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Paige, what do you like about single-handed sailing, and do you like to sail any other boats or any other positions?
So what I enjoy about single-handed sailing is I like just being on the water by myself. Sometimes it's kind of just like therapeutic out there. I like that I'm like relying on myself, and it's kind of like a lot of work within inside of my own head. And I like confronting different aspects and different weaknesses just on my own, which I think is a strong aspect, to look yourself in the mirror on a daily basis and say, what do I need to do to improve myself? So I do enjoy sailing double-handed boats. I have crewed and I've skippered. They're both fun, and I have a lot of respect for crews now. It is so much work. I had no idea like how physical it would be. And then on top of it, like, you're calling tactics, you're telling the skipper where everything is. Like, I remember some of those were like the most exhausting days I had was when I was crewing. But I sailed some cat boats, and I really enjoyed it because the speed. Obviously, in lasers, we go really slow. So anything that's faster than a laser is quite enjoyable for me.
Awesome. Thank you. I know you're a Florida girl. Can you talk a little bit about growing up in Florida, and if you think that's had any impact on your sailing career or path or style or anything really?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like Florida, I was just this like hippie baby chick, like on the water, just hanging out, barefooted, living in my bathing suit all the time. So sailing was just, it made sense. It was a daycare camp from my brother, sister, and I. My mom and dad were working, and like, what better way to enjoy the summer was to, put a life jacket on and go cruise out in a sailboat. So it definitely fit the lifestyle here, and it definitely fit the culture of my brother, sister, and I. So it was, a great time. The only thing about Florida is that it has made me a big baby for cold weather. So like the first few years going to Europe and sailing in like 50-degree weather, and it was raining, and I don't think the sun existed for like a month, I was like, what is this life, And then I knew other Opti kids that were wearing dry suits. Like, dry suit, what is that? My first sailing gear when I was younger was my dad's sweater. So like, I didn't have a clue about the cold weather sailing. So I think that definitely made life a little bit more difficult when I was traveling over to Europe for a bit.
Fair enough. I think we might get some sense of what latitude you prefer. Where is your favorite place to sail and your least favorite venue or general place?
My favorite place to sail is Brazil. I really enjoyed Rio de Janeiro, even though my Olympics results didn't show how much I enjoyed it there. I liked it because it was really complex. The wind was changing a lot, and then we had the current aspect. So I liked that. And then plus it was like in a tropical place, and it was really warm, and there was these beautiful mountains and rainforest stuff everywhere. And I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. My least favorite place to sail is, which shouldn't be used against me with any of my coaches or like anyone in the future, is Palma de Mallorca. It's just like so not an American place or a Floridian, because it's more like going to a side. And I grew up in Florida where the wind is hot and turbulent, so it's a lot of shifts. And then here we go to Palma and it can be like, I don't know, 14 knots, and then some front comes in, it's like 20 something knots, and it's just freezing cold the whole time. So that was a really difficult venue for me to learn tactically. And it's really cool because my boyfriend, it's like his favorite place to sail. So maybe I can get some good tips out of him with that. So
Nice. You touched on it a little bit earlier, but can you talk a little bit about what it was like for you growing up with your older brother, Zach, and having him sail, and how you think that impacted your career?
For sure. My brother was like always my best friend growing up. So, you know, whatever he did, I did. And, you know, he would rollerblade, and then he would put like a big helmet and all this padding on me, and I would go following around him. So when he started sailing, I thought, wow, for sure. Zach put me in his Opti and sailed me around, and I thought it was just the coolest thing to ever happen. So, you know, at first, it was kind of annoying at the same time because my brother was this rock star and everyone was like, Zach, this sailing god. And I was just the little sister or Tweedledee and Tweedledum with my twin, and nobody would know my name. So it was a great motivator for me to, you know, not let adversity get to me. Like people, you know, would I ever be as good as my brother? Would I, you know, would I ever accomplish the stuff he did? And so it was a great motivator. And then when Zach and I came onto the Olympic scene, we were a great team. My brother and I, we helped each other all the time. We talked about things that we could improve. If he was down, I would pick him up. And actually what was really cool about that is that when I went into the business world, all the traits that Zach and I had learned on how to work together, we then took it into the business world too. So a lot of the things that we're learning with sailing can be correlated over into the real world as well.
Awesome. I love that. We might get you to elaborate on that a little bit later. Can you talk to us about, switching topics a little bit, can you talk to us about your coach? And I know you've had multiple coaches, maybe a little bit about what you learned from some of them, what stands out most, and what you've been looking for in a coach.
What I find really important with a coach is trust, because so I'm a single-handed sailor. I don't have a crew. My coach is kind of like my crew. So we have open dialogue, and it's not just based on sailing. I also talk to him about where my emotional state is, my mental state. So he knows everything that is happening with me during the regatta every day that I wake up. So I think it's really important that you have a really good foundation of trust and open communication with your coach, because during training, he can help improve you a lot, improve your skills and your, you know, different techniques that you're learning. But during a regatta, you're the one that's in the boat and you're the one that's making all these decisions. So a coach is a really good aid because he can help back up your decisions, and then he can also help make sure your head is put together in the correct place when you're going out onto the race course.
How much time are you spending with your coach? I mean, now that, when do you have off time, and how much is it, a week before a regatta, or do you guys live in the same town, or?
Well, my coach would probably say I spend too much time with him and drive him crazy, but he lives in Canada, so he's quite far away, but I do blow him up on WhatsApp all the time, and even his wife knows when I'm messaging because it's like 20 messages in a row. So yeah, Steve lives far, but we have we just work with a schedule. You know, we have let's say we do 3 weeks, then we'll go home for 2 weeks. I think what's important at like my age and his age is that he has a family. So there has to be a really nice balance with him having enough time with his family, staying fresh there. And then us doing the training, like we've done some training based in Florida, and then a lot of our stuff is based over at the regattas. And what I've learned best with myself with jet lag, I like to do an hour a day. And then I'll usually add in, you know, like 2 or 3 days. So I work best probably going to a venue 10 days out, 10 to 12 days out before an event.
So you're really well rested.
Mm-hmm.
You've had some amazing obstacles and physical challenges, and I think it's really inspirational if you feel like sharing some of that with especially the kids on the line. I mean, your resilience is just immeasurable. So I'm wondering if you would just touch upon that to whatever level you're comfortable.
Yeah, I'm pretty open now with everything that's gone on in my life. Like, you know, before it was like a major bike crash I had. I mean, initially it started, let's just rewind. It started when I was 19 and I lost my first Olympic trials. I really learned how to stand up and come back after being defeated. And, you know, it was a tough time. I was really sad, but I said to myself, am I going to let this defeat, you know, define my career, end my career? And I said, no, I'm just going to try again. And I wasn't ashamed of losing. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another thing that's important that I learned is, you know, everyone will be proud of their, you know, their accomplishments, but I'm also really proud of my things that I haven't done well at, because it's taught me a lot in life. The next phase that I had was a bad bike accident in 2014. It was fractures in my spine. I messed up my hands. My face was open. And the doctor said it would probably be around 6 months before I'd be back in the boat. And I put a helmet on and I was back in the boat 6 weeks later, and I got the nickname the Pink Helmet Girl. So I was out there sailing with some pretty bad concussions and injuries, and I was struggling, but I was just determined to get back to feeling normal. Mm-hmm. And I think what kept me going then was I don't know, I was just being calm, and I just took one day at a time, and I just thought to myself, you know, eventually it was going to be okay. And the place that I was in at that moment was who I was, and I wasn't going to, you know, try to force it or rush it to get back. Everyone told me to take my time. So what was really interesting that I encountered then were people were placing expectations onto me before my body was ready to achieve it. Mm-hmm. And I found that really difficult, because as I was recovering, I felt like a failure at the same time, because I wasn't back on the podium in, you know, X amount of time. And I got to the point where I just said, I don't care anymore. I'm doing this, you know, I'm coming back from this accident, and I'm getting myself back up there when the time is right. So I stopped, you know, forcing it. And then once I calmed down about it all, I actually went and got a silver at the World Championships. So I think learning to take my time with myself then. And then in 2017, I encountered a lot of health issues, because at the games in 2016, I was sick. Mm-hmm. And in 2017, my life changed, like, you know, waiting around for cancer results, and then being told that I was going to have, you know, like lifelong illnesses. It changes you. Mm-hmm. And I came back sailing in 2018, and I was just getting killed by everybody. I mean, I was underweight, I was unfit, and we were still trying to figure out my health. And I literally said to myself that this is who I am. I can't change it right now. I can just, you know, take one day at a time. And I told myself that everything I did, I was going to see the positive in it. So if I was trying to improve my tacks, maybe the tack as a whole wasn't great, but there were elements in it that were good, and I would make sure that I remembered those good elements as I was trying to build myself back up. I thought everything was good, and then last year I got really sick again. So to climb back up and get myself back onto some podiums in 2018, I thought, wow, this is great. You know, I've got it. And then 2019, it just fell apart again, because my illness went into my lungs, and I was operating below normal. So my lungs were, and I had to change my medicine regime and do a lot of life changes as well. And once again, every time I got myself up to the podium, the last 2 days, my body would give out. And then we went into trials, and I was actually losing trials going into the second part of trials. And, you know, to walk away from a year where I was sick, I didn't know what was going on. I lost pretty much all the podiums that I had myself positioned. And I just said, you know, there was one day I woke up and I said, enough is enough. I got to stop, you know, putting expectations and being hard on myself with the current body that I have. So I just started from the ground again, and I just took it day by day by day. So I think like what I learned with this is that it's literally just one moment at a time. You have to stay present, and you can't compare yourself to other people. If you have differences, let's say you have a different body within others, you just don't compare. Sometimes you have to take an alternative route in life to get to the same end goal. And I think that's the biggest thing that I had to accept.
It's amazing.
So Paige, going into the second set of trials in Australia, I do recall there was a little smoke in the air for quite a bit of that time. And that must have been not only a physical setback, but a mental setback as well. Udi actually asked another question online here, you know, with the coronavirus, how are you feeling about that? Because, you know, your immune system is, you know, impacted. And so could you comment to those two?
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, when I first got diagnosed with my autoimmune stuff, I really struggled to talk about it. I found it hard to admit like the weakness, and I felt like shy to even, you know, speak about it with people. So I learned to accept myself for who I was and know that I could still achieve things. So when the smoke came in Australia, I knew that I had to have a face mask because my lungs they're not like normal lungs. And it's been a lot of, you know, just accepting me. And then I've had really great support around me that have just told me that it's okay. You know, it's okay that I have to take things a little different. So at first, maybe a year or two ago, I would have been ashamed or embarrassed about it. But now I'm like, I don't care. So I wore the mask and I'm out there competing with everyone, and I was doing just fine that day. So I think instead of feeling different or shy or ashamed, you should feel proud, because here I am, a person, an elite athlete with health issues, and I'm competing against people, the best people in the world. So I think you just have to turn things into a positive way. And now with the coronavirus, I mean, definitely something I do not want to get. 100%, my immune system, it's like geared up to not work against coronavirus. So I had to take precautions. I'm definitely inside a lot. I'm not going around people much, and my family, my boyfriend, they've all been really supportive of, you know, having to be more distant. I have a gym now set up in my garage. It's not the state of the art, but it's sandbags and it's, you know, getting things done for me. So I think you just have to change the way you think a little bit and not beat yourself up that you got to be a little different.
And the other thing I noticed when we were in Australia together is that you were really conscious of, you were getting some support medically through advice. And so when you were not feeling your best, you actually took a break, and which is hard to do for elite athletes. And I think that's also as you're coming up through the sport, you know, burnout is a big deal, but also having the discipline to say, okay, I've, you know, leading into your second set of trials, I know there were days that you took off that probably you would have preferred to be on the water getting prepared.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely have made the mistake in my career of overtraining. I know how to push past the mental fatigue. I can go all the way until my body completely gives out. And what I've learned over my career is the more rested you are and the more fresh you are, the better you're going to perform and the better you're going to train. So it's actually quite a science on how much training you do compared to resting. And resting is just as important as your training. So I think either that's something you have to learn personally by burning out, or you have a coach or an advisor that you fully trust. And when they say don't train, just don't do it.
So what are some of the things that you do to monitor that? I know Victor, when he was the Australian coach, the medal maker, when he coaches his 470 guys and girls, the first thing he asks them when they show up for a training is 1 to 10, how are you feeling? And if it was less than, you know, 6, then he sent them away. And so what are some of the things that you use to determine, am I ready to train today, or do I need to take a day off?
Yeah, I wish I could do the 1 to 10 thing, but I think my pain tolerance is just so high that I'm just like kind of used to feeling like crappy a lot that I don't even know. So we had to make a science of it. And I have a finger eater that Helena showed me. And it shows me like my heart rate, my like the variability with it, you know, my hydration. And if my numbers are off, you can see a trend before I have a flare or before I'm about to get really sick. And I also wear my heart rate monitor, like my trainers in them, they monitor the heart rate at all times. And you can tell when you go into training if your heart rate escalates too much or if it stays down for too long, that you're just too fatigued or you're getting close to overtraining. So I normally have to pull back a little bit sooner than most people, but that's okay.
You have a special diet as well. So tell us how that works into your competition, your training.
Well, so
And
I
what
used
is
to
it? What is your diet?
I used to be a gluten-free vegan. And then once my lungs started giving out on me, I was just like so weak, and they put me on new medicine. And so I incorporated new foods back in because I could start tolerating it. But my diet is quite bland, and it's just very routine when I'm training. So, you know, in Australia, it was a bowl of oatmeal and peanut butter, then a protein shake, then some kind of a lunch, which was like either a sandwich or, you know, a meat and potato. And then always like some kind of nut bars on the water. And then I come home dinner, and then sometimes something before I go to bed. So I like to eat really like more natural, we'll say, like processed food. I'm not into the processed bars. I like anything that's really natural. Like it's like it comes as is, not, you know, put with a bunch of products. I feel like that's the easiest to digest. And I don't drink or eat dairy, because that's the one thing all doctors said not to take in.
Paige, how many calories do you think you try to consume when you're racing?
Ooh, I wish I had an exact number. I don't know, but I can tell you how I feel with the calories is that I'm just consuming so much all the time that I like hate food. And I literally feel like eating is a workout, and I just constantly feel, someone told me a great tip. They're like, if you're eating enough food, you're just going to feel full and like gross all the time. And then, you know, you're doing it right. So I was like, okay, that sounds good enough to me. But I have it more exact. I kind of know, like my intake tells me how many calories I have a day that I should burn. And then based on my meals, I don't know, we can say probably over 3,000 or so.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Helena, do you have a question?
Yeah, kind of tying in with the nutrition from the physical training side, as you got to know your body better over the years, what did you learn in that journey about how to balance gym training with your on the water training?
Well, the becoming more scientific with my body has helped a lot. I found it really easy to be overtraining. So before I would do like a gym in the morning, then sail, and then a cardio at night. And that was just driving me straight into the ground. So I learned less is more. And I've learned quite a few things over the last year, we'll say. And, you know, we try to do it over like a 4-week cycle where you start a little bit lighter. And then by the end of the 4 weeks, you're training really hard, like a heavy load, we'll say. And then the cardio is really based off where you are and the type of weight training you're doing, where you are in the season. So like if I'm farther out from a regatta, then we're doing longer cardio. So like right now, since the Olympics have been postponed and we're not going to be sailing any events, I actually get time to do a bunch more endurance work. And then as we get closer to the events, it can change to more high intensity, quick sprinting stuff. And the same thing with the weights as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question, Paige. I've really been fascinated with the camaraderie amongst the radial women's team, the U.S. team. And I noticed that after you won the trials, I just loved what you had to say about Charlotte and Erica. And I just was wondering, that seems new, and how long have you guys been working together as a team? And is it just a special chemistry the three of you have, or is this the new normal now for U.S. sailing?
Definitely the new normal, and I really feel that the radial team, we've put like a hard push behind it to do the team atmosphere. You know, when I was younger, I can probably say I was a bit more of a brat, where I was, you know, I'm going to be training on my own and I'm going to keep my secrets to myself. And then as I started getting older, I just thought, this is ridiculous. A group mindset, you learn a lot more and you push harder and you keep yourself under pressure and stress all the time. So then when you do come to a high pressure situation in the regatta, it's quite simple because you pretty much have been training it all the time in your training. So Erica, Charlotte, and I, you know, we teamed up in the very beginning. I've actually been sailing with Erica all the way into the 2016 quad.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have the mindset, I'm in my 30s and I've been sailing the radial for quite a while, and I don't want to lead the radial and there not be another girl that takes my place.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's really important to put all my knowledge down to the younger ones. So when I do retire, we're still, you know, a force in the radial fleet.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned too that the more I share, the more they give back, the more we push each other, and the better the group gets.
Mm-hmm. Are other countries like that?
Yeah, for sure. You know, you see a lot of the top nations, their team mindset as well. And you can see like the training and stuff, it's just really cutthroat amongst everyone. And there's you know, obviously there's tension and stuff I see with the other groups, but it's all for a good benefit. And, you know, you just learn a lot more when you're in a group.
Will they
Do you
train?
feel about the year delay now, and will Erica be your training partner, or Charlotte, for this next year?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure on what Erica is doing right now, but I you know, if she wants to continue in radials, then yeah, for sure. Charlotte is youth, so, you know, all the youth girls, not just Charlotte, you know, there's Christina Sacularis, Hallie Schiffman, Lily. So there's definitely way more girls too that I'm like, you know, let's all train together and definitely, you know, push each other. Because what I like about youth is what I said, they're naive. They're out there to slit my throat. They don't care who I am or what I've done. They want to beat me. So it's great training.
So Paige, this is going to be your third Olympics. How will you approach these games differently?
This journey has been the hardest journey I have been on to get to the games. Like winning trials was grueling for me. You know, to start, I literally left the hospital bed and then got myself onto a bike and said to myself, okay, I got 5 months. Let's see where this rolls. So going into my third Olympics, I have been through hell.
Yeah.
So to get to the games, all I have to do is perform there. And from now until the Olympics, I'm happy for a year because it gives me more time to get myself into shape, because I knew going into Worlds, I was not in elite shape.
Mm-hmm.
I was what I could get myself into in 5 months, and I accepted that that's where I was, and I need more time. So a year delay is fabulous for me. It doesn't put a lot of pressure. It doesn't put a lot of, you know, pressure that I have, you know, 5 months to get ready for the games this year. So I can be more calculated, more, you know, give myself more rest periods and stuff to be ready for 2021.
What advice would you give the 49er FX girls, this being their first Olympics? What advice would you give them?
The biggest thing I've learned about the games is there's a lot of hype. Now, I love the Olympics. I love competing for the country. But it is really just another regatta, but smaller. The thing that changes for the games is all of the media. And you realize when you're inside of the bubble, all this frou-frou and magical stuff that you see on TV, you don't see when you're at the games. So you're kind of inside of, you know, a little bit of like a quarantine thing. You're in the place that you live, you get onto the bus, and you go straight to the sailing center. So the biggest thing is don't hype it up so big in your head. Just go there thinking, okay, it's another regatta, which is almost like college size racing, right? Like I think in the FX there's 20 or 20 something. Sorry. 20 or 20 something boats. So just take it like another regatta and just be calm, and don't let the commercials or those beautiful like ads that they have for the Olympics with like the violins and all that, like get into your psyche, you know?
Do you set up boundaries with your family members when you're at the games? I know that during Rio you gave your phone to your mom, and
Yeah, we had to. They required us to go off social media. But no, I'm one of those athletes, I'm super chill. Like I'm really relaxed at regattas, and like family, they want to come. Yeah, cool. We're on shore. It's great. I have no restrictions at all, because the minute my boat hits the water, the switch goes on and I turn into the athlete. So on land, I've learned how to compartmentalize my mind so I can be my normal self. And as I've gotten older, I like the interaction with my family because I've been away so much. I like interaction with my friends. So I have the stuff that happens on land. My thinking is, if you can't handle the pressure on land, then when you get on the water and the pressure to like win a medal, it totally has a direct correlation. If you can't handle this pressure, then how are you going to handle that pressure? You got to be able to handle everything that comes with your job.
That's good. Helena, do you want to ask the question?
Yeah, this is right along the same lines. So can you talk about sports psychology? Have there been any great books that you've read? Do you listen to any podcasts? Have you worked with a sports psychologist in the past? What is your view on that, and how has it changed your thinking?
Yeah, I read Lance Armstrong's books when I was younger, and yeah, okay, let's take away all the doping stuff. But like his books were really cool. You know, he had a pretty strong mindset coming back from cancer. Like no matter what, the guy came back from cancer, and all odds were against him. I do work with a sports psychologist. For a long time, I was not a believer, but I think the reason was I didn't find the right person that matched me. I have practiced Buddhism in my life, and the way that I view sports psychology, sport, business, doesn't matter what it is. If there's stuff that requires mental aspect, I think a lot of self-reflection, as I said, looking yourself in the mirror, and a lot of self-teaching as well. If I have an issue, I talk to my sports psychologist about it. She can give me great tips. It feels great to speak about it, but in my mind, that lasts for a certain amount of time, speaking about it. I'm still going to leave the conversation with my emotions. So I believe in, doing a lot of research on your own, just reading like stuff on the internet. You can type a silly question like, how do I deal with nerves? And there'll be so many different articles and people that give examples on how they deal with nerves. So the whole sitting back in the chair and being like, I'm so stressed out and not doing anything about it, talking to me only does so much. It's the execution, the research. That's what will be really changing. And all of that comes from within yourself. So I think with the mental aspect, the first thing you got to do is look to yourself and then decide what works best for you to change the way that you're feeling, which could be a mentor, your psychology, or own research.
Awesome. Can you talk about the role that mentorship has played in your career as well?
Yeah, actually, it can start with Pamela Healy. A few years ago, she reached out to me, and I thought it was so cool because I can't remember what games I was going into. Was it 2012 or 2016? And I was so nervous, I remember.
I have the letter you wrote me right here after the games.
Oh,
read it all the time.
So I just thought it was so cool. This Olympian was reaching out to me, giving me her perspective, how she dealt with the pressure, just all of it, like what it took to go into the games. And I thought that was really special. And I took all the stuff that she taught me and I applied it. And I just remember thinking like, wow, one day I want to give back like that. And the same thing happened when I was 16. Ed Baird, he sent me a card when I won my first Youth Worlds, telling me how, congratulations. And then, it followed my career and gave me these great tips. And I think what I've appreciated most about someone mentoring me is the selflessness that comes with it. because you hear a lot of older people that have had their careers, they talk, oh, back in the day when I sailed, back in the day when I did that. But instead, like, you know, she came to me and related, and she gave me great tips on how to go forward. And I thought, wow, it changed me as a person because it made me want to be a better person, not a selfish person.
That's pretty special. Nice work, Pam.
Lena, you've sat on the chair in the Healy house. So.
Oh, yeah. We have a question from one of our listeners, Gregory. He asked, did your sailing career start out as fun, or were you always focused on competitive sailing?
Oh, no, my sailing started out as a lot of fun. I actually failed my Learn to Sail class. I remember wearing my dad's t-shirt, my brother's old sailing boots, and then my sister and I, or my twin, we couldn't get back in because it was too windy, and I was too busy going around throwing watermelon and jellyfish at my friends, and I did not care about the sailing lessons we were doing. And then we had a test one day, and I was like, what is this crap? So I failed that, and my twin failed too. So I was not serious.
Nice. You talked a little bit earlier about sports psychology, and if you want to know something, do some research, look it up online. For the kids that are listening and maybe they can't go on the water right now due to the quarantine, what kind of things would you recommend that they do in order to improve their game while they're not able to actually sail?
I would say reach out to some of the top athletes. You would be really surprised that a lot of people would respond. If you have a question about tax or hiking or anything, a lot of us are really open to sending video and, you know, giving feedback. Or even, I've even told people, send me video of you sailing and I'll take a look at it. So I think doing stuff like that, and the what is it, the sailing that the tracking and stuff now. I love the tracking, and it's on YouTube. John would know the name of it. There's
the SAP software.
Yeah.
You could go back and look at old events. You could follow Paige and how she did in certain races and certain legs. And there's also sailing or racing simulators that I see a lot of the British sailors are doing that in their downtime as well. So that's another really good way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to get into coaching, Paige, when this is all over? When you're done with these games?
So I know 100% I want to get my knowledge out. Like, I just want to just put it out there to everybody. The traveling that I do now, I would say would be a very tough thing, living on the road year after year after year. So yeah, I'm interested in coaching for sure. The traveling would just only be something I think about.
What does your budget look like from here to the games now? Or are you prepared to answer that question, since all of a sudden, you know, it's moved?
Yeah, it's interesting. I usually we budget around $100,000 a year with radials. Mm-hmm. So 100,000, but now the events are out. I honestly don't know. The thing that I've learned as I've gotten older is you can't just pay for your sailing because mom and dad kick you out of the house, and you got to pay for life too. Right. So definitely it's like around 100 to pay for everything in life, and that's not an extravagant life at all. So.
Mm-hmm.
And you bring up a good point as well, which is that you don't get paid to do this, and you committed a lot of years of your life to it. So you're making a sacrifice to follow this passion and bring glory to, you know, U.S. sailing and the United States. On the flip side, though, for this particular sport, you get to travel a lot, and you have friends all over the world. And so can you address that a little bit, and some of your impressions about your travels and your people that you're friends with?
Yeah, like well, you can go and fall in love with a foreigner like I did. So you can have a nice little romance that way, I guess. Uh, and then, yeah, what I love about sailing, just take away the whole racing thing, is I have been exposed to so many cultures and different people. And I have seen true poverty in my life, all the way to extreme riches. So the way that I think, I feel is really broad and it's very open. So I would say my mind is not closed at all, because let's say I'm born in America. It's a certain type of society. It's a certain type of way of thinking. I go to, let's say a third world country. It's a different way of living, a different way of thinking. And I have decided in my life that I'm not going to conform to just one society, because on, like, let's say a world level, there's so many different people and cultures, and I really love learning, and I feel like the traveling has taught me a lot in life about, how to interact with different people and how to really be open-minded towards different opinions and cultures.
Yeah, and with the world politics and all the news and things like that, when you're in an event, you have friends from Russia and China and all these countries that we're supposed to be enemies with, or there are enemies. And so how do you find that? Is there a connection there, or is it completely different?
Well, one thing I find really interesting with the traveling is when you go to different cultures, you can see what their view is, let's say, on with America. And what it teaches me about myself is that how open-minded I am about my thinking. I find it, people should not have a closed mind or just a certain type of thinking towards a specific type of person because you grow up in that society and culture. There are a whole bunch of different things you can learn when you're actually immersed into the culture. With rival countries, we'll say, we are all citizens within a country, right? Our governments are above us and they're operating and working in a specific way. As a citizen of the country, I don't have a direct effect on what the government is doing. I'm one person amongst millions in my country. So it's the same thing when you go to China or when you're in Russia. I'm not going to be judgmental towards a Russian strictly because of the way their government operates, or the same thing in China. So to me, we're just all people. And I would never let a government's actions or a country's way of, let's say, what the media says how it's supposed to act. I'm not going to form my opinion based on, let's say, TV and others' actions. So I think everybody deserves a fair chance when you first meet them, 100%.
So I think what your message is when you see someone in the boat park, you're not looking at them as a certain country. They're just a regular person like you are. And
yeah,
how you interact is based on different personalities. But for the most part, we're all the same.
Yeah, for sure. We're all the same. I mean, we're all human. We're all born in Earth here. It's just we're born in different cultures and societies. And who am I to judge their culture and society as wrong? Like, you first have to be open-minded to meet the person, hear their opinions, their views before you make a judgment,
Except if they tack on you or foul you.
Now on the water, yes, it's a little bit different. We're all sailors out there.
Awesome.
Paige, we have just a few more minutes here, about 10 more minutes. And I also want to call out to everyone, if you have a question for Paige that you want to sneak in the last few minutes here, you can type it in the chat box. So with that, Paige, what's your most memorable regatta?
My most memorable regatta was when I was 16 at the ISAF Youth Worlds in Madeira, Portugal. And I had spent a whole year working on my mental aspect because when I was 15, I was winning the world championships. And I was like, I am going to be this kid that wins the worlds. And going into the last two races, I totally choked and I blew it. And that was how my whole career had been going. And Opties, every time the pressure was on, I would get dead last or black flagged. And so I did that when I was 15. And then for 1 year, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I am going to win. I am going to overcome my weakness. I will overcome my weakness. And for 1 year, I just kept telling myself over and over. And I went into the last race of the regatta, tied with the Australian girl, and it was who beat who. And I just said, I'm not making this mistake again. And I went and I won the race to win the regatta. And I just remember that being like, wow, all my hard work had paid off.
Super cool. We have a question from Hannah. Do you have a side job?
So after 2012, I started a company with my brother and sister, and we do insurance and 5-gallon buckets. In 2017, I started selling buckets. I called myself the Bucket Girl. It's a handle on the bottom side of the bucket. And my brother taught me that I cannot be a bull in a china shop. So I had to learn how to work well with others. And I had to learn how to sell and to walk into companies and just, hi, I'm Paige, the Bucket Girl, and get kicked out and be okay with it. So that was a big learning experience. So my brother and sister, they're still working the companies, which is great. So I've been in the real world, and I'll tell you, sailing is really fun.
So a good
Awesome.
question that I see here is, do you have any advice for opti sailors? Because opti sailors tend to have a little pressure put on them by their parents.
Right.
Oh yeah. It's so funny because my parents were just happy that I finished the race. So I was just out there cruising around dead last. My brother told me tack every 10 seconds. So I thought I was doing tactics. So I was awful. What I did notice with my friends is the classic opti parent, the parent that's trying to live the dream through the little 8-year-old. I think the best thing they can do when they leave their parents and they go on the water, just have a good time. Make sure, you tell that coach, I want to have fun. And if your parents are barking at you when you get in, just close those ears. Don't listen to them. Just don't even care. And I know they'll bark, they'll keep going, but you need to go out there and have fun, because that is what sailing's about when you're in optis.
And I think the other part of that is that the results in your opti career does not determine whether you're going to go to the Olympics or not.
For sure. All my opti rock star friends, they actually ended up quitting. And I was terrible in optis and still going. So don't let optis dictate your career.
I am 100% in support of that. I actually didn't do my first regatta until I was 15. And I think it helped me from burning out, and it made me always focus on it being fun. So optis are great. I'm not against optis at all, but just because you didn't start racing until you're 15, that doesn't really mean too much as long as you bring the right attitude. So yeah. I love that you touched on that. Yeah.
Another good question I see posted here. What's your biggest tip to sailing the laser?
Mind over matter. So sailing a laser is going as slow as possible and putting out a lot of effort. So you just need to be able to handle a lot of pain when you're hiking, and the harder you hike, the faster you go, which will be like the speed of snail. So we just accept we're slow, and really teaching yourself mental clarity when you're exerting a lot of energy. So being able to think and still see the race course and the others. So just accepting that the pain will never get better, no matter how good of shape you get in, and teaching yourself to be able to think clear, I think is really important.
So just to clarify, when you say go as slow as possible, you're not talking about going slow around the race course, but I think the other thing that I can read between the lines there is that laser sailing is difficult. It's in a breeze, it's painful. And as we've all experienced who have sailed lasers and other similar single-handed boats, pain is a big part of the psychological part of sailing and is part of the sport. And at some point you have to deal with that. Either you deal with it or you don't. Mm-hmm. And so that's, I think, maybe what you were trying to communicate was that.
Yeah. Well, what is pain, right? Pain it's an aspect in your head. And people's pain tolerances, you decide where your pain tolerance is. And pain is not, you're not dying. Your legs hurt because you're hiking. So it's all inside of your head on where your level, your threshold is.
Right. So sometimes pain, you could either be your enemy or it could be your friend. And it's a psychological part of sailing. And you learn to talk to yourself and push yourself a lot harder. So that's some good advice, Paige.
Paige, we have a couple of questions from Madeline. I believe she's, 12-year-old Sabbath sailor. And she's wondering, what is the best Opti tip? And also, can you talk a little bit about, this is a big picture question, but what is the path to get to the Olympic trials? What kind of things were you thinking about in your development?
My biggest tip with Optis is, like I always say, like, have fun with the Optis. But I learned a lot in Optis from the older sailors. So when I was younger, I'm not even the older sailors, the good sailors. I just sail up to them and ask them a question. And I think that's really important to learn to do in Optis. Coaches will teach you a lot, but also your fellow competitors will. So I think just not being afraid to go ask questions. And with Optis, I learned the pressure, just keep the pressure low. Just try to learn as much as possible and understand that your career is just beginning. So what's the picture, the big picture going to the Olympics? Okay. First thing is, don't let media, pressure from outsiders, expectations, set you back with any of understand that first, the road to the Olympics can either be a 4-year campaign to get to your first games, or sometimes it's 8, 12, 16 years. Just be open-minded for having a long-term goal to get to the games. The second one is, don't let outside factors influence the way that you go out and perform and sail. So meaning the expectations, what people, say. Media are going to be for you one day. The next day, they're going to enjoy you having a bad regatta. So don't let any of that stuff bother you. The next thing is seeking the right help. So making sure you're aligned with the right coach, making sure that you have the correct trainer. And when you get to the point of maybe needing a sports psychologist or a mentor, someone that can help you. I think that's pretty big three things.
So I noticed that Madeline's 12 years old, and I think that what's important is to have fun right now. And in terms of the path to the Olympics, you've got to also recognize that what you're best suited for. So with the laser in particular, you have to be a certain size. In other classes, each class kind of has a minimum or an optimum size. And if you can identify that early, then you could start thinking about, well, is it going to be the radial, or maybe it's going to be the FX or the 470? And and certainly high school sailing is a good path. You get some good skills in high school sailing. And then from there, the youth program, so the 29er or the radial, or even the windsurfing or kiting now. So I wouldn't suggest the offshore at that age, but anyway, so early on, kind of get an idea where you might fit in terms of your body type, and then make sure that whatever you do, there's a pathway for you to kind of get the experience that you need eventually.
Yeah, and I think sailing a boat that you thoroughly enjoy, like sail a boat that fits your body type for sure. But then if you find a boat that fits your body, and let's say it's in the Olympics, but you don't enjoy it at all, try to find something that you find really pleasurable. And I also want people to know too, if you don't make it to the games, you haven't failed. Sailing is a huge world, a big community. There are a lot of, different avenues you can take and achieve a lot of great goals. And, you know, if one doesn't make it to the games, that does not mean you're a failure in sailing. You can do different paths in sailing as well.
Well, Paige, I see that it's 5:30, and I just want to be respectful of your time. You're 3 hours ahead of us, and I just want to thank you so much. Kimball Livingston is reminding me that you are a warrior, and you are such an inspiration to all the kids around the country, but definitely you hold a special place in our hearts out here in San Francisco, and we can't wait to see you. We hope you'll train out here. We hope to, you know, have a meet again like this, and before you go off to Japan. And I know we're planning on hosting the send-off party for the entire team, but I'm so excited for this next year. I think you're really ready. You're so strong mentally. I'm so impressed with you, and I just can't wait to see, you know, what happens with your sailing and your training over these next months as you get ready for Japan. And we wish you all the best. And I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for, you know, already giving back to the sport. It means so much. You're very impressive.
Oh, thank you very much.
And I want to thank John and Helena. Thank you for your time. This has been really fun. It's been a fun project. Thanks, you guys. You're the best. And thank you
so much, Paige.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, Paige.
See ya.
See ya.
Good job, Paige.
Oh, it's
Oh,
going.
Paige, you're amazing.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Udi.
Bye.
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 Thank you, everybody. That was really fun.
Yeah, that was great. Really, Elena, Pam, excellent programs.
Yeah, really
You
good.
know what would be my little fun maybe?
Mhm.
Is to do this, but leave like 10 minutes at the end where people could unmute and
what?
ask questions.
Okay.
That, you know, I don't know if that would be unruly or not, but that
Well, you weren't on yet, but this is so public and it's hard to control. Someone was really inappropriate, and so that's why I just muted everybody. Sure. I mean, it'd be neat if there was a way we could do this where we had more control over the audience.
Yeah.
But there are little kids on the line, and someone was really being terrible.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
I know. I think you weren't on the line yet, but yeah. I don't know, Helena. Maybe if we do this again, it'd be neat to sort of have an invitation.
Yeah.
I just kind of dove in, and when I heard there was a shelter in place, I thought, well, this would be the perfect time to do this.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's really.
Once they get released, it'll be hard. It's so hard to schedule these things with the sailors. They're so busy.
Yeah. So when's the next one?
I know. I want to do one with Railey and Anna. I got a text from Anna, and she really wants to do it. And I had asked Railey, and I don't think he really understood what this was, and he was feeling overwhelmed with juggling so many balls. But Anna definitely
such a guy. He's such a guy.
Anna definitely wants to do it. So I kind of think maybe if we're available to do it next week, I think Tuesdays seem like a good Tuesday and Wednesday seem like good days.
Yeah.
People Mondays are hard, I think.
Is there a way to do like a Facebook watch group as well to kind of get more people into it?
Probably. I don't know how to do that.
Like a Facebook Live, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think the challenge, I mean, I don't know if wouldn't say it's impossible, but the challenge is that I think that's coming from one camera. And so, whereas Zoom is kind of like multiple lines at once,
right.
But I'm definitely not an expert, and we could explore that.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It has to be from one camera. I've done Facebook Live before, and you have to be.
Yeah.
And I like this. This
is really great. Cool. It's raw, it's raw, and it's kind of, it's really, really, it's not, it's not processed or whatever the term would be for that. And I think that really adds to it.
I do too.
So that's good. And what would be good is like a lot of the questions and answers, we should be having a menu, because a lot of them kind of come up that we could use in other interviews. It'd be really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Helena, do you want to check in with Riley and Anna and see if they'd like to do something like this next week?
For
Sure.
me, I,
Oh,
oh,
no.
I could check in with Riley. I could put a little pressure on Riley to do it.
Well, I think Helena already did, so maybe it'd be good if she, and then if they say no to her, then you can go in for the jugular, John.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
I think she already started the invitation.
Yeah.
I don't think he knew what I was trying to do. I think I caught him at the wrong moment.
Yeah, it's all good.
My enthusiasm sometimes is overwhelming.
And you guys are well? Getting along okay?
Yeah, it's stressful. I've got 4 adult children here working from my house, and then so it's
And
it's
Craig is working though, right? He's
yeah.
able.
He went and saw a patient today. He gets up and goes to his office, and there's stuff there that he can do,
Yeah.
and then he goes to Costco.
Yeah. Gotcha. Well, listen, great job, you guys. These last 2 have been fantastic, and I don't know how many of the girls in your Facebook group have been on there, but it's got to be just some great stuff for them.
Yeah, I know. It's really cool. No, I think last night was amazing. I was blown away by those women. They're so solid. I thought they're just so great.
I'll tell you, they're
I was
really,
impressed
really
with them.
good. So, as you 2 are as well. So this is great. This is really, and I think this extra year that we've got going into Japan is going to be really good for this team.
It's
Yeah.
good. It's really
Yeah.
good.
I really, besides the funding,
Mm-hmm.
which, that's a different beast, but yeah, as far as extra time for everybody to improve, it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, huge opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll
This
work on it.
this helps with the funding. This is a building block for sure. Just being available to the fans.
Right. It's good seeing Kimball on there, and I
Mhm.
think Craig was on the other one.
Craig Lewick, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right, you guys.
Kimball's on the board with me at the foundation, so that's good.
Oh, good. Excellent. Okay. I'm
Till
out.
next time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
See you
Take
guys.
care. Bye, Pam.
Bye. Take care.